Hi, everybody, and welcome to the DogCo Secrets podcast. My name is Michelle Kline. I am the host of the podcast and also the founder of DogCo Launch, where pet care companies come to grow and scale. Really excited to be back with you guys today. We are on our scaling series for pet care companies. And today we are tackling companies that have reached about 500,000 in revenue and bottlenecks that they are going to find from what I have seen and the work that I have done coaching 200 companies in the pet care industry as they are scaling to $750,000 and beyond. So we're going to talk about common bottlenecks in this window of time and how to get through them to grow your pet care business. Okay, so we have been on this scaling series for a few weeks now where I am breaking down ways to get through to the next revenue level for your pet care teams. Some of the things that I'm speaking of may resonate with you really, really deeply. Some of them you may have experienced in like slightly earlier phases or slightly later phases, depending on how you're building. But overall, these are themes that I have seen. And today's window is a unique one because this is where I see companies really start to have this inflection point around their management team. And the management team can become the biggest bottleneck. So last week we were talking through the 300 to 500,000. And I was talking about how at that point in your pet care business's growth, you probably have multiple part-time admin kind of operating around the business. They may be very part-time. You may have multiple people kind of cross-trained in the same role, but it's still a little bit all hands on deck. And you're starting to build more of this admin management. You start to have it in that window. I have seen that when companies then transition to the 500,000 mark a year, between that and the 750,000, they start to develop a need for true managers, people that are able to make independent decisions of the owner for the good of the business. So your admin team in this window of time has to start evolving, growing, shaping, or it's going to become one of the biggest bottlenecks in this season is your admin team. They just can't make decisions for you, slows everything down, and also keeps all decisions bottlenecked around you. Up until this revenue point, you've probably been able to be the only decision maker, like the only true decision maker. But this window of time is where we have to start focusing on developing leaders and putting the right people in place that we trust to make the best decisions for the business. So we need true decision makers. That's the first thing this window is characterized by. Second thing that we can expect to see in this season, what happens when we put new managers in place? We have to put in new policies, procedures, and systems to support their work. What we were doing before will not automatically translate. We're going to have to go back in and build systems. These new administrative systems tend to create a domino effect across other systems. It's like, okay, well, if I redo my meet and greet process, then that's going to have a domino effect on my client onboarding process. And my client onboarding process may have a domino effect on our client experience and retention process. All these systems tend to like feed in on each other and work either for or against each other, depending on where we're at. And so as our management needs are evolving in this window of time, so are our system needs. And it can lead to this feeling. You're going to have to start kind of dismantling and rebuilding your systems across the whole business. It can lead to this feeling like, oh, I'm breaking things instead of helping them. And it can feel really chaotic because typically in this season, once you start with one system, it pulls the threads on all the other. And so it's going to feel like everything's breaking, just to be totally honest. How do I put this? It's not necessarily untrue that it's breaking. It's just there's bad breaking in your business and then there's healthy breaking in your business. I think this falls into the second category, but it can feel really confusing in the moment. It's like this just feels bad. So we want to think through, okay, is this bad breaking or is this good breaking? Like I am intentionally disrupting so that I build better systems moving forward. We want to make sure we're clear on which category we're in. Third thing that we can see this window of time categorized by, client experience and retention can suffer as the owner gets more distance from it. And that's been a theme from the last couple of scaling series, like a couple of the lower revenue points as well. Every time you reach a new revenue point, you reach a new point in volume in this business model, the owner is going to get slightly further away from the clients. At first, you replaced yourself as the pet care provider. Then you might have replaced yourself as the trainer. Then you might have replaced yourself as the daily manager. Then you might have replaced yourself in like other functions of day-to-day work that really ultimately was like connecting you to the client. You replace yourself in scheduling, you replace yourself in meet and greets, and this is healthy. Your business needs you to delegate so that you can continue to elevate your role in the business and grow. And also, we want to be thoughtful about the client experience that still exists inside of the business, because just because you step further away from it doesn't mean that there isn't an experience. It just means we're less connected to it. There's always going to be a client experience of people going through your business. And we want to be aware of what that experience is and intentionally curating it and driving it rather than waiting to see what happens as we step out. If you're a pet care business that wants to level up, then this is for you. The DogCo Business Summit is in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, September 26th to the 28th. We still have tickets available, and we just announced that we are going digital. So you can get your in-person ticket or your digital ticket at dogcosummit.com. And then finally, this is going to be a window of time where if you have not sorted out a lot of your data and metrics, it moves from being a category in your business where it's like, yeah, that would help us make much better decisions, to a category where we just can't move forward. I have found that'll become a big bottleneck in and of itself because the volume will have necessitated that you have stepped further back. So if we haven't gotten a handle on the data and metrics inside of your business, it'll feel and legitimately be like you are flying blind rather than you have these really good informed data points to help steer the decisions that you're making and the way in which you are making them. So that can be a really big barrier, a bottleneck in this window. Okay, so biggest risks which will keep you locked in this window instead of accelerating past it. So number one, I was just talking about how data and metrics can become this kind of lifeline back into your business as you're stepping away. And especially if you do not have those lifelines for the owner, I've noticed there's a temptation to stop working themselves out of systems kind of around this point because it feels too uncomfortable. So it's not uncommon that in this window, the owner is kind of wrestling with this tension. So they just don't step out. They unintentionally create more bottlenecks because we've reached this volume where it really can't be centered on you, but you are afraid to step away. And so that's going to kind of create a lot of friction inside of the business. It creates a bottleneck around you. Plot twist, you can probably sum up the entire scaling series with just I, as the owner, am the problem. And you wouldn't be far off. Like, the actions of the owner create massive impact. I'm kind of kidding, but I'm also like really not kidding. It is true at every stage, and that's true in DogCo. So biggest risks, the owner feeling uncomfortable with that system step back. And so stopping the system step back and just staying like really, really in all of the systems, creating bottlenecks. Second biggest risk in this window is a decline in client retention due to all of the structuring and restructuring. So this is dangerous for two reasons. One, because obviously it has a huge impact to your bottom line, and it can kind of lead the business in the direction of having to hustle really hard for new clients. We have a leaky bottom of a bucket. The clients are kind of falling out as they're coming in. So that can put a lot of strain on the systems in your business, first and foremost. But the second thing this is going to do is really reduce the acceleration of the business to the next revenue point. Because the way you can think about client retention, which is keeping clients for as long as we can and influencing how long they stay, the key way to think about client retention is it's like the base of a pyramid. It just continues to stack on top of each other and raises your baseline recurring revenue, which makes the business so much easier to grow. If we can get your clients recurring and measure how long they stay with you and influence that number to be longer, it multiplies the speed to which you can scale your business exponentially. So there's a risk in this window of losing those core retained clients because of a decline in experience, because all the systems are getting restructured. And again, those are still things we have to do. This doesn't mean like don't do those things, but it does mean that we need to be thoughtful about the risks to our retention in this window of time and to make sure we're really protecting that client experience. Third biggest risk in this window, restructuring systems can start to feel really daunting. This, again, can be true at multiple stages in growing your business, but when you reach this one, I have found, and you're having to re-envision so many different people's roles to the business and how decisions get made and who has final authority and who can decide what and just run with things, all the things that need to happen in this season. The systems can feel very daunting. It's like, do I start with client onboarding or do I start with client retention? Do I replace a team manager position? Do I hand off hiring to someone? We have all these decisions of how the system works together, and that can be really overwhelming. And then final risk is getting kind of stuck in data debt. So we had talked about this is a window of time in your business where getting clarity on that data, getting organized on your data is mission critical. It's like before we needed it, but now we have to have it. So not dealing with the reality of needing to have it is a risk in this season, and just trying to continue pushing for growth without the data as you're having to step further and further back. It will pull you further and further away from the information you need to make good decisions. It'll feel more and more uncomfortable. And the business I have seen will start to suffer because it needs you connected to things. It just needs you connected to them in scalable ways, which essentially is data. Data is scaled information. Let's put it that way. And so the more we push for growth before we really deal with the data and get things set up in a way to where we can track them, we have clarity on what's going on, we are creating a lot of data debt. We're creating a mountain that we're going to have to sort through at some point, because at some point, the lack of data becomes the ultimate bottleneck. And so if we can build that proactively, it saves us a lot of time and pain. Okay, so let's talk about solutions to get past this revenue into the next window, which we will be talking about next week. And that is $750,000 a year to 7 figures plus. So getting through this season, I have 3 ways to approach these bottlenecks. Solutions may not be all encompassing enough, but things you can focus on. So number 1, nurture the client experience and focus on retention. This will solidify this tier for your business and it will keep you going. It needs to be systematized. So right now, if your client retention is heavily emphasized on you kind of creating all these one-on-one touch points and things like that, we want to take that information that we've gathered from you being so centered in the client experience, and we want to turn that into a series of touch points that we could implement with other people and with other systems that wouldn't require you. And to do that, we have to build a repeatable process that somebody else could do. So focusing on that repeatable experience, that systematized experience in client experience and retention. That was a mouthful, but I hope you guys followed me. Client experience and retention, that is going to be the first system that I recommend we really focus on. Number 2, and y'all, I know how uncomfortable this suggestion is, but a willingness to slow down in order to build the systems right in this specific window in your business really helps you long term. I actually see businesses really struggle to get out of this window if they're unwilling to do that. And I don't feel that way about every scaling phase, just so you know. I think I shared the 100,000 to 200,000. I recommend companies just hit that as quickly as they can. If you don't have enough systems to support it, honestly, just grind your way through it. Once you get enough people in that you can step out of the field, then we can build the systems. So this advice to intentionally slow down, not necessarily uniform to every window of time, but for this specific window, 500,000 to 750, a willingness to slow down to build it right is going to serve you exponentially long term. I know it's so uncomfortable. I know as entrepreneurs, we love to just continue going and to continue pushing. Sometimes we got to intentionally slow it down in order to keep going. And this is a window I think that can be helpful. And then number 3, really focusing on developing the skills yourself as the owner in culture carrying through your team. So, hiring people who embody your culture, who can be these key decision makers at the top, really empowering their process and making sure that they carry the culture down to the team. You're going to need to get really good at establishing and imbuing these leaders with culture because it's just going to trickle down from the top all the way down. And we want to make sure that it keeps trickling through the positions. So, as you have more and more people at the head of the business helping you lead it, helping you make decisions, not that you're just giving them their whole chunks of the business that they're responsible for, but more of those day to day decisions you don't need to be involved in. With those people in place, we really want to focus on the culture that they are going to be putting in place underneath them with the people who report to them, because you are going to be further from not only the clients, but also the staff. So we want to make sure that the culture that we want to protect is continuing to live on through other leaders instituting that culture. Okay, y'all. So next week we are on our final scaling series episode, 750,000 to 1 million. I'd really love your feedback. I am planning out the rest of the year for podcast content, and I'd love to know what resonates with you, what is the most helpful, and how I can support you better moving forward. So have a great one, everybody.